Welcome to Brew Builds, your place for DIY home improvements. I'm Paul. Today I'll be installing some lighting on our pergola. It should be simple enough, but to make it more challenging, I don't want to see any exposed wiring or conduits. You ready? Let's do this! I've been planning on adding lighting to the pergola, and I realized I probably should get it done before I completely seal up the fireplace barbecue structure. That way I have access to the inside to run any wiring. Tools and items needed: outdoor rated lights, 14-2 UF rated wire, a variety of junction boxes, wire clamps, a tape measure, a utility knife, a screw gun drill driver, some wood drills, a circular saw, a multi-tool, a router, a hammer, a wood chisel, a Dremel tool, gloves, and your personal safety gear. I was looking for a simple LED downlight and ended up getting a great deal on these. They are definitely inexpensive. I don't think this metal could be any thinner. I found these on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. Remember the saying, you get what you pay for? But how can you pass up on something a quarter the price? They are rated for wet locations, and I'll have them tucked up under this beam, protecting it from sun and rain, so I'm hoping they hold up okay. On the brew scale, technical ability I rate between a novice and expert. You need to know how to measure, drill, cut, and make minor electrical connections. Physical ability I rate between easy and difficult, depending on how much you want to hide the wires and access to the area. As I mentioned, the challenge will be not having any exposed wiring or conduits. To achieve that, I'm going to drill a hole up through the posts and the two cross beams, cut a wire trough in the cross beam, and then drill back down into the fireplace structure. Then I can run any wiring into a junction box to make any needed connections. The pergola will be covered with a roof, which will prevent any rainwater from getting into the structure or wiring. If I wasn't adding the roof, I would need to figure out a different way to do this because this would not be watertight. Now, to drill the hole up through the posts and the beams, I'm going to need a very long drill bit. Probably 16 to 18 inches, which I don't have. I know they make some longer auger type wood drill bits, but I'm going to use something that I built 30 years ago. This is my custom 24-inch wood bit extender. This was made from a solid half-inch piece of round metal. I used a metal lathe to drill a hole in the top for a wood bit, added in a set screw, and shaved down the end to fit a 3/8-inch drill chuck. Crazy that I still have this thing after so many years. Now, before I can use this, I need to figure out how and where to mount this lighting fixture, keeping in mind that I'm drilling a hole up through the posts and the beams, and I don't want to hit any of these T-bracket screws. An easy but wrong way to mount a light fixture on a wood beam or siding is to attach the mounting bracket directly to the wood or siding of a house. Drill a hole and stick the wire through. You may have some in your home done this way. However, this does not follow the NEC electrical code because wire connections need to be made inside of a junction box. So to do this properly, I need to mount a weatherproof exterior junction box to the post and then attach the light to that. I have this weatherproof quad box here that's about the same size as the light, so it should work just fine. Taking a closer look at the light and junction box pieces, I'm not sure if this is the best way to do this. The light fixture came with a mounting ring that will attach to a junction box. However, the holes in this ring don't line up with the holes in this quad box. The ring is designed to be used with a round junction box, which I think would look pretty silly with the square housing of the light. And the other issue is the light needs to be mounted off this plate about 3/8 of an inch, which leaves about a 1/4 inch gap between the light and the junction box. A 1/4 inch is not very watertight. I also picked up this 1/2 inch pancake junction box, but it's not rated for outdoors. The volume of this allows for the two wire connections I need to make. I'm thinking if I set this inside the post, I can add some sealant around the edge to make it watertight. I don't know if a more expensive light fixture would have a better way of mounting it to a post, but I think this is a better option than the outdoor rated box that wouldn't be very waterproof. I've done a lot of electrical work on my homes over the years, installing light fixtures, upgrading panels, so I'm confident in my ability to do a project like this. However, I'm not a licensed electrical contractor. Some people may say that electrical work is not a DIY project. It can be dangerous, so only do projects that you're comfortable doing. I try to figure out how to do things to the best of my ability and knowledge. Whatever you decide to work on, do your research, don't cut corners, and err on the side of safety. Now let's get back to the light. I want to sink this piece in about 1/4 of an inch, so I was going to use a hole saw, but then this hole saw is a little bit too small. So I'll be using a Dremel tool to mark the outside of the hole and then taking a router and cleaning out the rest. I'll have to use a wood chisel to remove the last bit of wood. You need to use a wire clamp whenever you stick a wire into a junction box. I'm amazed in my house how many boxes don't have wire clamps. Someone was very lazy when they worked on this house. I really need to fix this one, it's bad. To make space for the wire clamp, I remove one of the knockouts and will mark where I need to drill the hole for the wire clamp. Drilling a depth about 1/2 inch using a 1.5 inch spade wood drill bit. That fits nicely. Now I can drill up through the post and the beam to hide the wire. I remove some more wood at the bottom to help get the proper angle for my drill bit extension. It took a while to drill, but I finally made it all the way through the post and the beam. Since I'll be adding a roof to the pergola, I need the wires to fit inside of a notch. That way the roofing material can lay flat on top of the beam. I made 4 passes with my circular saw to cut a 3/4 inch notch in the top of the beam, using a 1x4 as a guide. Then used a chisel and a multi-tool to remove the thin wood pieces that remained. Here is the finished wire trough with the holes drilled for the wires to run to the light fixtures and to run the wires down to the light switch by the barbecue. This is the 14-2 UF outdoor radio wire that I'm using. First I'll run it down through the beam and the post. Then strip off about 4 inches of the protective cover using a utility knife to score the jacket. The jacket on this outdoor rated wire is much tougher and doesn't tear like regular Romex wire, so you need to cut through the protective cover without cutting the insulation on the wire themselves. Bending the wire and cutting on the outside of the bend will help you see exactly what you are cutting. I have the wire clamps already attached to the pancake box, so I'll run the wire through the clamp and tighten down the screws. Then push the wire back up through the hole and screw the box in place. To connect the wires to the light, I'll be using a wire nut, so I need to strip the insulation off about a 1/2 inch. Since the ground will be attaching to a screw on the light mount, I'll bend a loop at the end of the ground wire, then hook the wire around the screw and tighten it down. Push the hot and neutral wire through the center hole, then attach the light mount to the junction box, making sure the 2 mounting screws for the light are level. There's another ground screw on this side of the light mount disc to attach to. Wrap the ground wire from the light fixture around the screw and tighten it down. This wire should now support the weight of the fixture itself. There are new and fancy wire connectors that have levers, or some you just push the wire in, but I still use wire nuts, and these came with the light. There are a few possible issues you can have with a wire nut. One being when you're using a stranded wire and a solid wire together. A wire nut can actually push down the stranded wire instead of twisting the 2 wires together. Pre-twisting the wires and making sure they are long enough can prevent this. Also give the stranded wire a good tug after you tighten the nut. The screws that hold the light fixture are adjustable by loosening and tightening a locking nut. I already cut them down in size so they would fit inside the small junction box. I need about a 1/2 inch of thread sticking out to fit the fixture, O-ring, and tighten the nut. When I started running the wires along the beam, I realized I should protect them from the possibility of getting hit by a nail or a screw when I attach the roof. So I'm going to use a router and make the wire trough a little bit bigger to allow space for this 1/2 inch conduit. I also ran some 5 conductor 22 gauge wire inside the conduit for some more LED lighting that I have an idea for the pergola. Be sure to subscribe so you'll know when I upload that video. And how about hitting that like button for me? To connect the wiring, I have a duplex box that has the on-off button for the fireplace and a switch to turn on the 2 lights above the barbecue. This switch is wired to a junction box that is under the barbecue. I have a video showing how I ran the wiring and gas lines, so be sure to check that out. Here is the hot wire coming from the junction box that goes through the switch and connects to the hot wires for the 2 lights using a push-in style wire nut. The 3 neutrals are connected together, and I used a wire nut on the 4 grounds because there's an added ground wire for the switch since I'm using a plastic box. I added a waterproof cover and gasket that should keep everything nice and dry. And let there be light. They are spotlights, but have a decent spread to cover the barbecue work area. I'll take another video as it gets darker out. The barbecue itself has lights, so this should work well. To see how I built this fireplace and barbecue structure, check out this video. Or if you're interested in laying down some patio pavers, check out this one. Thanks for watching and hit that like button for me.